welcome to Seven Legal. This is Olachi Anikwa. INEC has registered numerous amounts of votes this year towards the 2023 general election. My question is, does this teeming number of electorates know their rights and their responsibilities towards this 2023 election? All of this and more are what we'll be discussing on today's show. What are the rights of voters in the upcoming 2023 general election? But before we get into the show, let's go on a commercial. Welcome back. This is Seven Legal. I'm Olachi Anikwa. Again today, I said earlier that INEC has registered multiple amount or number of voters for the upcoming general election. My question is, does these voters know their rights and their responsibilities towards this general election that is upcoming? Today, this is what I'll be discussing. And to discuss this with me is Barrister Divine Okeke from the Ikpeazu Chambers. You're welcome, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's just get into the show proper. Like I said, INEC has registered numerous, I think it doubled this year. It's the gap is so much from the past general election. What does this have to say for the 2023 general that is upcoming?
You know, I'm so happy about this development, because for a fact I can say that for once there has been this high level, or for a very long time there has been this high level of political apathy amongst we Nigerians. I mean, we have not been participating in the electoral processes, you know. And then what's more inspiring is that the increase in this upcoming election, it's mainly at the youth, the younger populace of our country, and it's extremely inspiring to see. I mean, if I could speak with a youth in during the 2015 or 2019 election, they will tell you, "Oh, it's not my business. Government does not affect me. You know, I can still eat, I can drink, I can sleep." But I think after the aftermath of the recent NSAS protests that happened sometime in 2020, you know, there was this rapid fire that just fueled the majority of the young masses. You know, and that was what increased the turnout of registered voters. And I'm really, really happy. You know, it's not just in the show of registering. You know, in recent times we've seen developments where people are having marches, you know, rallies and whatnot. So I'm really happy about that. You know, and then I would say I think we're heading to the right place. Yes.
Okay, so you're very optimistic towards what's going to happen in 2023.
Yes, overly optimistic. In fact, I can say that I don't know what's going to happen, but I am actually excited that it's a new awakening. You know, it's a rebirth. It's a new spirit that has been ingrained in the young masses in Nigeria, and I can't wait to see them perform.
Okay, so you know our youth, they are very, very passionate about everything they do. So I'm not asking, do you think the youth know their rights and their responsibility towards this upcoming election, or are they just eager to go and vote towards the election?
You use the word qualified. You said they are passionate. Yes. So yes, I would think anything that would involve passion should inform more decision to actively participate or engage in whatever activity it is you set your mind towards. So as regards having the knowledge of their rights, it's quite subjective, I would say. Now, for the greater percentage of the youths that say are educated, you know, I can say the ones that are decided to be actively involved in this 2023 elections, I think some of them should know their rights, and they have decided to go about it the right way by registering, you know. But then for the others, for the vast majority of others that don't know their rights, them even wanting to be part of the electoral process, I feel personally will expose them to knowing their rights and their responsibilities.
Oh, okay. That's nice to say. Coming from a legal perspective, you feel they know they're right. But someone said something. I think I saw a tweet that said that this election now do or die. You.
Yes.
So please, I want you. I don't think it's a do or die. I think there are rules that will guide an electorate
Yes.
to voting. So, what do you think are the rights and responsibilities of this teeming population of youths that are coming up to vote in the next upcoming election?
Yeah, as you said they said it's now a do or die affair.
Do or die that if they don't get, they go just don't want to get into it.
I agree.
Okay.
I agree. I mean, from my own personal experience, and this is irrespective of what other people have experienced. Most of my colleagues that graduated with me back then in 2017, I can barely count up to 15 of them that's still in practice or say within the same geographic location with me or in Nigeria, as the case may be. So I think most of them know their rights, and then some of these rights that, okay, I was speaking with someone and I was asking, okay, so how do you know what to do when you go to vote, and then he was like, yes, that he knows that he has a right to vote. Said he has a right to know the particular candidate he is going to cast his ballot for. He said he has a right to privacy. That in fact, more with that privacy, he was saying that in case that there are going to be people that will want to, influence them, influence their votes, that they're going to collect their monies and vote in their candidate.
That's
So I was
funny.
I was like, yeah. I said, how are you going to do it? He's not saying, yes, I have a right to privacy. I mean, you're not going to follow me into the voting booth, to see me exercise my franchise, that I'm going to do what I need to do. He also told me that he has a right to, after voting, making sure he stays there to count his vote, which I found very, very commendable.
That's nice.
And then he also told me he has the right to keep his PVC straight, right to, ensure that all his means of identifications are properly brought for the election, so there's no issue of misnomer or any.
So they need to carry means of identification to election,
Yes,
like
yes.
your ID cards and stuff.
Exclusive of the PVC, even though it's recognized as a valid means of identity.
Okay.
You need to get your driver's license or a form of identification that will confine your
That's your
designated person.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so moving to the penalties. Are there offences that can be committed in the polling units that will require punishment? And if there are punishments to these offences, what has the type of punishments that can be accrued to people who have the mind to come and scatter the polling unit and stuff like that? And when things are Nigerian youth, some of them when things are not moving in their direction, they tend to be very overreactive. So what are the offences that can be committed in a polling unit, and what are the punishments that can be given to some of those offences?
Yeah, in fact, okay, let me start with the offences now. There's so many offences that can be committed in the polling booth, the polling unit. And then this is where I would say, in the Nigerian perspective, would have to apply to the youth more in particular, because there's this construct or general construct that older citizens won't engage in activities like this. It's we, the young ones, that have the strength to do things, So some of the offenses are from my own knowledge, Some of them include cutting away with ballot boxes, disrupting voters from casting their votes. Vote buying, it's a very serious offense. Even campaigning.
Okay.
Campaigning at the election ground.
Okay, so you don't campaign at the election ground.
Yeah. In fact, the Electoral Act has it in the new guidelines that you're not supposed to campaign, I think, within 24 hours to the election or so. So you're not expected to have any paraphernalia, even if it's wearing a shirt that has vote so and so person for president, it's an offense. And then, but I would want to focus more and then belabor on the issues of things that would disrupt others' from voting.
Okay.
Which is when people try to cut away with the ballot boxes and then also disrupt others from voting in vote buying. I feel like these are very three trite areas that the youths need to look out for. And then I'm speaking more with the fact that I know that they can be easily coerced with monies. A vast majority of the Nigerians, I would say, are not in the top class or in the higher standard of young people, so they can be easily influenced with money. But then I will just appeal to everyone's good conscience, especially now that we've decided to make it our fight, to ensure that they try and refuse and restrain from any form of influence that would cause them to.
Okay, what would is there an offense that will necessitate a cancellation of votes or a polling unit saying that this polling unit is cancelled from the whole election?
Yes, I think the Electoral Act, amongst the new provisions in the new Electoral Act, there's this provision that was recently greater, and then I'm so happy about that.
Okay.
It's about overvoting. There's this provision now that has it that once the registered accredited voters, are higher than the number of people that vote, so that's when it will be. Sorry, when the number of people that vote is higher than the number of accredited voters. That's when it will be regarded as overvoting, and then they are going to cancel.
Is it the whole polling unit or just
the particular polling unit? Yes, they are going to cancel the polling unit. So it's not just enough for one to just register as a voter. You have an impending responsibility to ensure that on the day you come to vote, you are accredited first
before
you now cast your ballot, so you can fit in amongst the accredited numbers of voters. Otherwise, you fall into the excess of registered voters that voted, but then still not higher than the accredited.
Okay. So I wanted to ask something. Is there a need? Is there going to? Is there a provision? Is there provision for a re-election? What I mean is this: when the election is concluded, and probably vast majority of the people have decided that this election wasn't free and fair, is it confined in the voter rights to go for litigations to get for a re-election, or their job is to just come and vote?
I think that right now is now a function of right between who has, in law we'll say the locus of who has the capacity to say he seeks a redress because of malicious malpractice. I think that right is reserved, according to the Electoral Act, to the party. I think the candidate too as well that's contesting in the election. I don't think it's reserved necessarily to the voters. Although the voters has the right, there's a constitutional right to recall, the people that they voted in, especially for positions like House of Representatives and the Senate. They can, as constituents, call back. They have a right of recall. That's what they call it. Have a right of recall to call back the elected candidates. But for the persons that can institute an action when there is an electoral malpractice, or there are cases of when they say there is no, the election wasn't conducted free and fair, then I think it's reserved for the political party and the candidates.
Okay. So to conclude the show, how do you see the 2023 election? Because Nigerians are vesting their trust on INEC. Do you think INEC would deliver in making sure that the election was free and fair and credible?
Right from the inception of INEC in Nigeria since 1957 till now, I would say they've tried. They've tried, but we can't deny the fact that there has been issues of electoral malpractices in our voting system. But for this 2023 general election, my only happiness now is that there's now the new advent of electronic usage in the voting system, whereby once the votes has been casted in a particular unit, it's uploaded online, and then everybody can see the number of people that voted within a particular unit. So that's the only saving grace per se. But it's for INEC to dispense their duty. I feel like the first point where we will judge this question would be from whether INEC actually collates or issues out the right number of PVCs that were registered for. That's where we can now start making any judgments as to whether they will actually do their work. Because it's one thing to register for the election. It's another thing to get your PVC.
Okay, so we are already behind schedule. So
yes.
Just in 1 second, just give us your final word on this right and voter registration. The election that is upcoming.
Okay, I feel in the 2023 general elections, I feel that while everyone has a corresponding right, to exercise during the whole voting process, I feel like we should pay more attention to our responsibilities, especially in the parts of ensuring that you know the candidate you're voting for. You come out that day and you vote. After voting, you stand and you count your vote. And after counting, you ensure that your vote is properly transmitted. Yes, before you leave your polling unit.
Okay, right. That is it for 7 Legal today. I've been speaking with Mr. Barrister Divine Okeke from Ikpeazu Chambers, and he said something very profound. Make sure you get your voter's card. Go and cast your vote and stay true till the end of the counting of the votes. 7 Legal it is again, and it's Olachi and Ikwa. I'll see you next week.